All right, Ian. 3DS and DSiWare games are being deactivated from the Nintendo eShop, huh?
Yep, and they're doing it without any sort of alarm or warning. It was kind of the big one that has been removed that I think got everyone looking is that Shantae Risky's Revenge, which I believe is the sequel to the Game Boy Color one. Yeah, that was the first DSiWare one. Was removed with apparently no one knowing that it was going to be removed. So they've gone and looked into it a little bit more to see what other games are missing. So here's a partial list from a couple days ago, from January 2nd. Asphalt 4, Escape, Aura Climber, Xenonia, Spotto, Mighty Flip Champs. That's another Way Forward game. Escapee Go, Dr. Mario Express, Mr. Driller. I'm going to put an asterisk on that. Soul of Darkness, Legends of Exidia, Spin 6, The Oregon Trail, Glow Artisan, and many more. So, as with all digital marketplaces, I think this is what people really worry about, is that the games that they bought on there will suddenly disappear and no longer be available for re-download, and it's a valid concern. I do want to notice, though, that I think this has been happening a bit more. I don't think this all happened at once. For instance, that Mr. Driller, I know that Mr. Driller was gone as of 2019 because I tried to re-download it onto my DS before going to Portland, so I would have some Mr. Driller to play, and it was gone. And Mr. Driller was removed from the Vita store as well. So I think some of this...
Well, you had purchased it before and re-downloading it?
Yeah, and I was trying to re-download it, and it had been pulled off.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And that was on the Vita and on the DSi. So I think what's happening is some of this is normal licenses expiring and games being pulled down, and I think some of it is more Nintendo pulling stuff down now. So I think some of these have been gone for a while is all I'm trying to get at.
Right.
So this has kind of thrust the whole physical media thing back into the spotlight because Limited Run...
We can't get away from it.
Right, because Limited Run pointed out that they had done a physical release of Risky's Revenge. I don't think they did it for the DS. I think it was... I don't remember what systems it was on, but they did a physical version of it. And talking about, okay, well, this is why the physical media is important. And it is. I have no problem with digital purchases as long as I know that there's a physical copy out there for certain systems. And if the only way I can get a game from a small developer, is digitally with no physical backup, I will. I can't be one of those people that says no physical, no buy, because then you're actively doing damage to the hobby that you claim to support.
Yeah, the industry wouldn't have a lot of these games.
Not all developers can afford a physical run.
Most cannot.
Right.
99% cannot.
And the fact that we're seeing a lot of independent titles get physical releases lately is largely in thanks due to companies like
Limited Run.
They
took a risk to get to this point.
So I don't understand the not supporting a company if they release a game that you want. Sure, if this was like a massive company like an EA or an Activision or something, I could understand that. But punishing the small developer because they don't have the money to give you something you can put on your shelf is, in my opinion, fucking asinine.
Yeah, you're not supporting the smaller developers and publishers anymore. You're just saying, all right, we only support AAA for the most part.
Right.
Or
so I've never liked that attitude.
Middle class developer, is there like a middle class, a AA developer?
However, I get it. A lot of these DSiWare titles never did get physical releases. Like Escape, which is a lot of fun, never got a physical release. Mighty Flip Champs, I don't think ever got a physical release.
So these are like simpler, cheaper games for the most part.
But some like Xenonia is I believe that's a fairly well-known Korean-made action RPG. Okay. Escape, I believe, was done by ex-Argonaut members, by the people who did Star Fox. So we're not talking we're talking smaller games in terms of size, but we're not necessarily talking games that no one's going to miss.
So there were 366 games on DSiWare. So they're not all gone yet, but some are. 366. That's a decent chunk. That includes ones exclusive to different regions. I'm looking at the list on Wikipedia right now.
So if you look through this thread, you'll see people
adding 57 apps. Sorry, there's 57 apps as well.
Okay. You'll find people adding more to the list, but also to to confirm what I said, there are people saying that some of these have not been available for a while due to licensing and all that. Not that that's good either, but I'm just saying this is not all. This all didn't come crashing down at once.
And there's also 3DS games, obviously, we mentioned. Here's I guess, this silverish lining. It's not difficult to find and play these games in other ways. These, 3DS ROMs and DSiWare ROMs and, things like that. There's a way to still get these games if you can't purchase them anymore. So it's not like they're lost. It's not the same. It's a lot easier to replay these games versus like when they took Flappy Bird off the phones, where it was, unless you had it on your phone, you were kind of screwed. It was a lot harder to get the game on. Like it's easier solutions for stuff like this. So in terms of game preservation,
what are you talking, like flash cartridges and stuff?
Yeah, I was trying to beat around the bush there.
I mean, you don't have to. There's nothing. I mean,
that's what I mean.
I mean,
this isn't bad for game preservation because
I don't know how available some of these are, though, with how small they are. That's my question.
But everything, I mean, God, Ian, at this point, every one of these games gets dumped almost immediately.
Sure. So I understand people's problem here. When Sony generally, although I believe a few weeks ago people were saying that there was PS1 games missing that they were unaware of. Usually these companies give some sort of heads up. Nintendo's given heads up in the past. They've been like, "Hey, we're taking this stuff off we're ending the WiiWare, the Wii store. They were taking that off. They're like, you have this many months to get on there, re-download the games if you need to re-download them again, or if there's anything that you want to purchase. To just rip these games off of the DSiWare store with no warning. These are games that people can still re-download, I think for the most part, almost all of them, onto their 3DS.
Sure.
So to not have that warning, it's not like the 3DS has a ton of memory. A lot of people, myself included, would juggle memory, delete games, re-download ones.
No external on the 3DS?
You can, but it was the larger SD cards, and a lot of people didn't do it because upgrading your SD card, putting a new one in, it required an online transfer. Nothing with Nintendo is ever easy.
I never really used my 3DS.
So there are people who may have been intending to re-download these games when they got some sort of warning who are now not going to be able to re-download those games.
That stinks.
Yeah, it sucks.
There should be a statute of limitations on this. You can't expect these servers to be up forever for some of these games.
No, I can't. And I understand that there is an inherent risk involved when buying digital purchases. At this point, I think if you're making digital purchases, as much as you may not like this, you have to understand that this is going to happen. I accept every time I make a digital purchase that there may be a situation, like when I tried to re-download Mr. Driller, that I'm going to be like, all right, well, I'm fucked out of that $10 or whatever. And it sucks.
Mr. Driller did not make the cut. Sorry.
But I do think you need to give people the warning. Yes, absolutely.
No, absolutely.
So they can, re-download these titles if they had the right to do so.
Hey, we're never going to be able to get again on their 1950s Lawnmower Kids. Now I want to play that game because that sounds incredible.
What was it? 1950s Lawnmower Kids?
1950s Lawnmower Kids almost sounds like a fake game, but no, it's a real game. 2 out of 5 stars on Nintendo Life.
It has a much better name, I guess.
You're a kid, and you are mowing the lawn with a percentage. It's almost like one of those sort of games. You do the percentages, and I guess you got to avoid stuff. It's a resource management game played almost exclusively with the stylus. There you go. Free advertising to whatever company this is. It was released in Europe. 1950s Lawnmower Kids is my semi-modern game recommendation of the week. Right there. 4 out of 10 stars.
All right.
Now I gotta find Lawnmower Kids trailer and put that on here for people to laugh at it. But no, there's some cool stuff. This was like almost like app games for your 3DS, right? That's kind of what some of these are. They're like more simpler stuff. You're not going to be spending $50 on these games. They're simpler. They're cheaper stuff.
It was a digital store that generally did simpler stuff. Although as time went on, it more and more became just like. The 3DS eShop was the full evolution into like online store like we see on all the other.
Like how the Switch is now. You buy the new AAA game for $60.
Yeah, so DSiWare titles were generally smaller.